I'll call this park board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Kristen, you want to call the roll?
Brad Bassick,
I'm here.
Ed Repe, here. Joe Skvarek,
Here.
Nicole Kelly,
Here.
Jen Wilson,
Here.
John Novosich,
Here.
Irene Morales,
Here.
Carly Morris,
Here.
Christian Bartholomew.
Here.
All right. Approval of the minutes from the May 7th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 7th.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We got 2 seconds. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Next up, the parade awards, which do we have?
I think we need to delay.
We're gonna defer parade awards.
Oh, the awards. They're
The actual
You're here,
the
the award
trophies.
is not.
The trophies are not here.
No, the awards.
You can
are-
come up if you want, but you can have like my half seltzer. I think you want the trophy though. I think that's what you want. All right, let's jump to donations.
Sorry.
That's okay. Would you like to tell us about the donations?
We have Pensy Pints and Performers sponsorship donations. Venture Club, $500. DLZ Indiana, $1,000. Ironworkers Local 395. Thank you, Nikki, $1,000. And then we have another donation for the Tebow Park from the Robert Tebow family, $600.
Okay. All right, we need to approve these. So the collective amount looks like $3,100. Is my math bad?
That's correct.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve all 4 donations for a total of $3,100.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion, any nays?
No.
Thank God. Okay. Motion approves 5-0.
Just for that, you're gonna.
They're still not here yet, so we'll jump to correspondence.
None?
None. They're still not here yet, so we'll jump to reports from staff. I'm going to do this for everyone. We'll
Carly,
jump to reports
you wanna
from staff.
start?
Right before adjournment.
Yes, I will start. I'm just going to go over some of the events that we have coming up in June.
Excellent.
To start it off, we have Dino Day, which is on June 20th from 5 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. And then the week after, oh, sorry, am I loud? The week after
you're doing
that,
great.
it's fireworks, June 27th from 5 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. And then we also have a day trip coming up to Shipshewana. That is on June 20th. And then this week we started our summer camps. So we have 2 dance classes, 2 cooking classes, dodgeball camp, and weird science. 5 out of the 6 sold out, so
Wow.
that's great.
Which one's not sold out?
One of the cooking classes. Yes. For the older group.
Okay.
And then
Yeah, what's the age range?
it's 4 to 7 and then 8 to 12.
And the 8 to 12 is
Correct.
okay, cool.
Years, right?
And then next week, our weekly camps start. And the first one coming up is Stitch's Mischief Madness, and that is from June 16th through the 19th. And then the second one in June is the Field Day Camp, and that's June 23rd to the 26th. And then this isn't really about events coming up, but we were supposed to have Region Rumble the weekend before Fest. That did not happen. So, concession revenue is going to take a little bit of a hit because of that, because
Sure.
we do get a lot
What
of
happened
revenue
with
from
that?
that. Well, when I asked, I got, and I quote, "They require someone from their league to be there at all times, and they just didn't have the people to run it." End quote.
Okay.
So, that's all.
Okay. All right. But had they reserved the space and
Well, there was nothing else that weekend, so it wasn't like a conflict interest or anything.
Okay.
So it wasn't like I guess a huge deal for scheduling wise,
Got
but
it.
revenue wise for concession.
Sure, absolutely. Do
Right.
we just remind me, do we charge a deposit?
For them, no, it's part of their lease.
Got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's party know.
Is that them?
Yes.
Okay. So should we pause
Yeah.
reports from staff, or should
Yeah,
we
go ahead.
finish reports from staff? We're gonna pause
No,
reports
we
from
can
staff.
pause.
Let's pause. Table that, okay? Let's do some trophies. What do we think?
Kim is going to come up and present them. She was in charge of parade this year.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim.
Yes.
Why don't you go to the podium,
Center.
and that way you have the microphone, and I think the camera will see you too.
Okay.
Does that work for everybody logistically? Where would it make the most sense for the live stream?
Probably back here if we're just showing them and there's.
None of us need to be in that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, just kind of show them where you want them to stand so that it makes sense. And then Ken, if you could use the microphone to announce so that we get it in the recording, yes, please, and announce the winners, and we'll go from there if that's okay.
All right,
Should I put this down?
okay. So for the best vehicle for the Schererville Parade was Orac Shrine of Michigan City.
Is anyone here for that?
Anybody here for that?
We probably ran out of gas.
No, okay, well, we'll still
All right.
clap. Way to go. And we'll get that to them somehow.
Yes. Best float was Schererville Parks and Recreation.
All right. Wow. There was no bias in that at all.
There was no bias. And I honestly can say that. They had the best float.
I believe it.
They did
I
good.
believe it. I was sorry to have missed it. Way to go, guys.
And then best walking unit was St. Michael Catholic School.
Okay.
I just want to say that we loved the convertible. It was
Oh, yes.
so cute.
With Sister Deanna Love on the passenger side waving to everyone. Yes. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right.
All right. Okay. Well, that was fun. Back to reports from staff. Carly, are you finished?
I am.
Excellent. Okay. Irene?
Yes. So, I'm here to answer any questions about Fest that you may have. Is there anything on your mind? So, what I can tell you is I'm taking all your notes from your emails that I've received, and I'm kind of trying to make more of like a master cohesive plan, because some of the ideas were repeated, and that's great, because then we know we're all on board. But just so when we have like our department head meeting, we can address all of those issues. So is there anything that you guys wanted to mention to me, or even to staff? I mean, overall, I think we did a pretty good job, you know, down to an employee, I guess. So, yeah. It was hectic the first day, and then I think it kind of was stagnant the rest. Saturday, you know, got a little extra.
Yeah, it sounds like you got a little crazy on
Right,
Saturday
right.
and a little bit on
But
Sunday.
I guess even if we look at the last 2 years, I think that we're in a better place still, because last year it was Friday and Saturday.
So,
And now
do we
it's-
know, just to measure, like, I think the total number I heard that were arrested this year was 18 people. Is that accurate?
That is what I heard also from
Okay.
Chief. I can get you an accurate answer, but yes,
I would just be
that's
curious,
what.
like, okay, how many were arrested in 2024? I know 2023 was bad.
Well, I know one thing, they were giving out tickets. So any kids, so I think the actual arrests they were either caught with something, or, you know, there's some kids that just didn't stop. So they ended up just taking them in for whatever other reasons, maybe fighting. But I guess, I don't know the actual number of tickets that were handed out, but those were also a thing. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I would just be interested to know, because 18 doesn't seem that bad to me, given how many people went through.
Right,
the
right.
fest
But
over
I
the
guess
course.
without knowing the number of tickets that were actually handed out, You know, I guess that would be more of a warning, even though they'll probably get some kind of community service because they still have to go to court. But
Do you know what the tickets were for?
I don't know exactly what they were issued
Not
for,
all.
but
Disorderly
anytime,
conduct.
Okay.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Okay.
You
yeah,
can get a ticket for disorderly conduct.
correct.
Good to know.
Yes, you can. So,
I'll keep
Be
myself
aware.
in check.
yeah.
Have you received any feedback from the police department? I mean, in listening to one of the earlier emails, they seemed to came across as they were somewhat overwhelmed, maybe. Have you got any feedback from the police themselves?
Yeah.
And-
So Sunday, I actually had a talk with Chief. He told me some of his ideas. They're similar to what you guys have. Like I said, I've gotten extreme, and then I've gotten smaller things. I mean, just for example, like cancel the whole thing, or maybe just get rid of the rides, or charge an admission. You know, there's a lot of different ideas out there, and I think one of my goals is to take all these ideas and then just to kind of state what we need to execute these ideas or how they affect us.
Do we really think the rides are the problem?
If we eliminate, no, you know what? I didn't get that from other police officers. So, I don't think, well, what it is it's
Not the
the
best without
kids
rides.
coming in that aren't spending any money.
Yeah.
So they're just walking around, they have no bracelets, they're not buying anything. It's those that we need to deter.
And they're just causing problems.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of what I got, so.
Don't they have parks where they're from? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Why would
And you know,
go
the
that
solution
far?
may be to start charging. Just because they don't have money, I don't know how they're getting there, whether it's an Uber, but they're spending all their money just on that. So when they get there, they're not buying anything. So then, you know, they won't be able to afford a fee either.
Realistically, do you think that the people that are getting in trouble, like if we start charging, are they just going to come and hop the fence? Like, is it really, do you really think it's enforceable
Right.
in the space that we're in?
Personally, I'm on the fence with that.
Okay.
Okay, but I've also heard from
Well,
other...
jump over it. Like,
Okay. I've heard from other people who have maybe dealt with this in a different situation that they believe it has,
Okay.
you know, helped, and that they're not getting as many kids. I don't know how valuable that is. I mean, it's a lot of comparison. That's why I think I'm on the fence. Part of me is saying, yes, you know, that would help, but then other part is like, you know, what's the price that we're charging, you know? And then I'm talking non-residents. So if we're charging $2, can they find $2, you know? Or is it $5, $20? How high do we want to go? So that's where I think you got to find that sweet spot. Yeah.
I would say not $2 and not $20.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, it sounds like the problem is really not like areas like Dyer and St. John and even Griffith or...
But, you know, sometimes we can't compare ourselves to other events because they're a different model.
I'm not
Yeah.
comparing. What I'm saying is, because one of the councilmen sent an email today saying that, you know, if you live outside of those areas...
Right. I mean, I like the whole non-Indiana higher fee, too. I mean, I thought that was interesting. I didn't think about that.
I just, you know, my
Yeah.
question to you guys is someone going to be able to stand there, check IDs, and if they're younger and they don't have IDs, like,
Well, I also
they should
got...
be getting turned away anyway unless they have a parent, right?
Correct. So I got from somebody too that it should be more enforced. If you leave the park past 9 o'clock and you're under the age of 18, you're not allowed back in. And then if you show up after 9 o'clock and you're under the age of 18, you're not like allowed in regardless. So I don't know if that
Yeah.
would be helpful too, because it would get them out of there earlier.
We went through this in '23, sat down, had half a dozen meetings that I was lucky enough to be able to attend.
Right.
I saw the brochure for, hey, make sure you have clear plastic bags, make sure you have this, make sure you have that, make sure you have that. I never saw once where it said you needed an attendant with children.
You're talking about just like the yard signs in general, because it is on the rules, but
It wasn't out on Facebook.
It was. I posted it
Okay.
several
Yeah.
times.
And part of the problem, you know,
I didn't
parents
see
are
it.
going in with their kids and then they're
leaving.
turning around and walking
Right.
right out.
Yeah.
That
You-
was a problem.
I had officers say that they seen a mom bring in her kids, walk, and then turn around and leave. So, I mean,
I
that's a
think,
hard one. You could put all the rules in the world, it doesn't mean people aren't gonna find a way to break them.
I do think, and I still owe you an email, but I almost wonder if just doing a fee for Friday and Saturday, or 5 and later a fee.
Right.
And I do think if we kind of at least enforce, you have to have entry into the park with an adult, that's at least a way to see if you're a resident or non-resident, so you could, so it might at least deter it. I was there Sunday, and I was working a booth, and there was plenty of people who were from all over. And, it was Sunday. It was more family-oriented, and I
Correct.
hate to deter people away who really want to do stuff with their families. But Sunday, it wasn't like I was there Saturday, too, and that was...
Right.
that
I
was
mean, even
rough.
Friday wasn't that bad. I don't know if any
So
of you were there.
Maybe start off slow, and
Right.
I'll email you, but those are just some of my thoughts. And
Yeah.
just,
And, I mean, that makes sense, because Friday and Saturday are like the big hitter days, where
It-
chaos assumes.
Whatever we do, has a positive and a negative impact.
Right.
And, so you really need to weigh those and try to measure, the good and the bad and try to put some type of weighted mechanism on or to evaluate effectively. That could be a good idea. That could draw more people to come out on Thursday to avoid the entrance fee.
Right.
You could be moving the cheese over the Thursday, so to speak.
Yeah, but then we just move the problems over to Thursday.
it'll still
The-
disperse
yeah.
it. Right.
My opinion would be if we're going to charge an entrance fee,
I would say all-
it needs to be across the board. I don't want to. I intentionally don't take my family on the weekend because I don't
Yeah.
like the bigger crowds.
Right.
And I know what the kind of crowd we can get a bad crowd on the weekends. We're more likely to, and so I would just rather avoid it.
Right.
I would encourage the board as you're reviewing the master plan for Ileana to kind of visualize, some of these issues and see how that layout would maybe change or make things better, from some of the issues that we're facing. Reader is very, obviously, it's kind of, this is outgrown Reader. And, if you had entrance only from vehicles to get into the park, say, now a parent's got to drive in the park. If there was a charge for parking, hey, you're going to have to drive into the park, pay for parking, drop your kid off, and then leave if that's what you want to do. There's a little more advantages they have in the fest at Ileana where you could build the infrastructure with the fence. Brad, to your point, yeah, it's going to be people probably trying to jump over the fence to avoid paying a fee because you
Yeah.
can easy at Reader versus maybe if it was 6 feet. So some of the infrastructure at Reader just doesn't really lend itself to the way things have changed over the years with the festival and it's...
So one thought on this, because it sounds like a bigger issue is like, and what people are doing to skirt around this is parents are walking their kids in and then leaving, and then their kids are unsupervised and they're causing problems.
Right.
One potential solution is to recommend to the council that they pass an ordinance that specifically around the fence, that if you do that, that can be a ticketable offense with a fine. And so that you penalize parents that are intentionally breaking the rules. And then in addition to charging to keep, some of the rougher crowds out that are maybe coming from areas that the fest is really not designed to entertain, I think between those two things, and that's something we could recommend to the council. And I haven't talked to them about it, so I don't know what their expectation would be, but I know that would be deterrent for me.
Well,
wouldn't walk
also
my kid in
on
there.
top of that too, with the youth supervision policy, I just replicated exactly what we did last year, so maybe another thing we could do for next year would be kind of a more in-your-face approach with the youth supervision policy. You know, it was on like, you know, the original post and it was, you know, listed on other things, but I mean, not everyone reads everything, so maybe more of like a giant picture, you know, would be better than just literature in a sense.
Yeah, I would suggest signs outside that say, you know, under 18 entry required
Right.
with an adult.
And I think what becomes the issue, even on social media, is like you kind of have to pick and choose what is more crucial. You know, whether you're making a sign with only one rule, but it's like the most, you know, rule they have to follow, a must. I guess you got to put them in order, and I think that's why some people don't see certain rules. So.
There was a number of cars towed from Oak Manor. The town puts a big sign up that you will be towed, and irregardless, people just disobey and then they get towed. So, I mean, all these measures are good, and I think we've adjusted the last couple of years with additional fencing, more lighting, you know, implementing the rules and the banners and posting that. Is it going to be a 100% solution to every problem? No.
No.
You know, you're trying to minimize it and adjust. But, you know, I do think, you know, the cards are a little bit stacked against us with the way things have grown at Reader. You know, if it was a different venue, you know, it may solve some other issues for us or make it at least a little bit harder, you know, and for people to access the site. Reader's a very vulnerable site because it's all neighborhood driven and has a lower fence around it. And even if people don't go in the fest, they could hang around outside the perimeter of the fest. So,
So do we possibly consider in the next 2 years that we're going to be without Ileana for sure? We consider minimizing it a little bit so it's not so packed. I will tell you, Jen and I walked in after the parade on Saturday night and it was problematic.
And that
What do you
that
mean?
was
Can
at-
you
that
explain what that
was-
mean? What you mean by
And
that?
we
Clock,
spent
right?
quite a bit of time up front with the officers and, you know, than I did on the way out as well. And there were issues. There were definitely issues.
Right.
And I feel like we discuss this every year and we kind of say, well, there's really not much we can do. And we get to the next year and it's the same issue again. And I don't know, I'm sure everybody has been on social media reading the feedback.
I
And-
have not, so I'm not, because I'm not really on social media,
yeah,
so.
it's on Facebook, like,
Okay.
there's some comments. So maybe that is something we consider. I in no means want to get rid of this event. This is a time-honored tradition here in Schererville, but if in fact it is that we are just so crammed into Reader and we cannot control it, then maybe until Ileana is ready, we scale it back just a little bit so that it is easier because we had, I mean, it looked to me like half the police force out there and they were busy.
Right.
you know,
So, just to entertain that for a second, like, how would you recommend scaling it back?
Like less food trucks, less rides, so that there is more visual lines of vision. Like you can see, it is so crammed,
Sure.
it's so packed. I mean, you guys do such a wonderful job of filling that park, and there
Right.
are just a plethora of food trucks and vendors, and you know, it's
I
a
mean-
feast for the eyes. It really is.
Right.
But if we're having issues controlling and providing a safe activity for our residents and our community, then we have to seriously look at that and
Do you think
not
it wasn't
have the same
safe?
conversation we do every year.
Do you think it wasn't safe?
I mean, I will tell you, my daughter was with me after the parade, and
Okay.
I would not have left her there if
Okay.
she had friends.
I mean, I can agree on that too. I have teenagers and I would not, and they're good kids, but it's the fact that you're guilty by association or you're in that environment where things are happening. So it's not about what they do, it's about what others are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this was Saturday night specific. I was
Right,
not
Saturday,
there Thursday. I was not there
my
Sunday.
kids were there
Right.
Thursday, and it was totally fine. And I think they went Friday late to get a pretzel, no complaints. And my kids don't love super big crowds, so they didn't say too much about it. And then Sunday I thought was fine. It was Saturday after the parade.
Yeah.
That was like 6 o'clock.
It was about 6:30, and
And all those people were not at the parade.
No,
Because
I will
there weren't
tell
that
you.
many people at
I
the
didn't,
parade.
I mean, I was obviously on stage for the parade, but I did not recognize many faces from the crowd at the parade in the crowd at the event afterwards. And maybe they went to the fest before the parade. I don't know.
But I just feel like the parade itself wasn't even that busy to get all those lines. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that's why I was suggesting a time, because it seemed like that time was like.
And I was
6?
probably,
it 6?
I think I was there till probably 8:30 is kind of when I left, and
Yeah.
so that's my 2 cents. I sent my email with my thoughts and whatnot, but listen,
Right.
this is in no way a reflection on you guys. You guys did a fabulous job. Our police department did a fabulous job. Public
I thought it
Works,
was quieter than some
Right.
of the other
everybody
ones.
did a fabulous job on the event. We just have some outside factors that we have to figure out
Right.
how to tame.
Yeah.
And that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, and to go back when you said about, the overcrowding of vendors, I have no problem getting rid of, some crafters, food vendors, but I guess when it comes to the rides, and maybe John can speak on this, I'm not sure how that works. Like, are we able to dial back? Is that now not good enough, I guess, for him, so he doesn't want to come out? I'm not sure.
I had that conversation with Josh either last year or the year before when we
Right.
were discussing the same issue. And I believe Josh said with that specific company, there is no smaller version. And I don't know if that's still the case.
That's pretty accurate. The contract is, finished, or was finished this year. It was a 3-year contract, so that's something for the board to consider moving forward, what kind of operator you want to get in there. Now, there's less and less operators in the business than there used to be years ago. Obviously, they're in the business to make money. If you had rides that were more geared towards kiddie rides, for example, or younger age group, then you're going to need to find an operator that really has that or is willing to just to bring that and not bring the heavy artillery.
And we need to be prepared to accept less revenue as a result of that.
Yeah,
Like,
and,
you know.
that could be an option, but that's part of the negotiation with that contract. And, if an operators are willing to, concede to that, then, you have to find a different operator. There's not that many out there, and, for years we had one operator, and, I've tried to get some other operators in, and it's very difficult. And when we had this opportunity, we took it.
Right.
So I think we should resist the temptation to overcorrect, because I think all the problems you guys are bringing up are completely valid, but I think the solutions are nuanced and complicated, and I really think that we should, that the smart thing to do would be to try to limit ourselves to, okay, we're going to adjust 1 or 2 variables at a time, and then reevaluate. And the reason that I say this is the fest is important to the town. It's important to the department from a revenue standpoint.
Right.
And we don't want to break it. And we also, if we change 10 things and it works, but we don't know which of the 10 things worked, we now have a different problem that we have to solve. And so my initial thought is let's figure out together. Maybe we need an extra study session to really iron this out so that we're not doing it during a meeting. But let's figure out together what maybe 2 or 3 things are that we're going to try to adjust for next
Right.
year, and then do that and reevaluate it. I mean, maybe they're right, and maybe charging people outside extra to come in will just solve the problem. And
Right.
then we don't have to really worry about finding a new vendor, which is going to be like it sounds like it will be a difficult undertaking, or reducing the fund that the people that we want there and that are coming,
Right.
will come for. I am a little concerned about looking at the number of Magic Bands that were sold and the downward trend that we're seeing in that. And I know it's not showing up as much in the revenue from those, I assume because we're raising prices. But you know, we're down like 40% from where we were at in 2023. Now, 2023 was a big year
For what's that for, Brad?
for the Megaband sales. The Megaband, the number of Megabands sold.
Oh, the advanced sales?
Yeah. That's a concerning number for me.
I will say though, when it comes to the wristbands, those did go out later this year than they normally would have.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Okay.
like a month later. So
Oh, wow.
And was there a price change from last year?
no, it's the same price from last year.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how much effect though that would have, Carly, because a lot of people wait on the last minute. And I think the weather this year too was really bad, and people might be on the fence if they're going to spend that amount of money. God bless you for a wristband. But I think if you look at the overall, you know, total sales, Brad, that's been a little more of a consistent number. And sometimes if the mega band sales are down, that may be made up with the on-site sales. You know,
Yeah,
so I mean,
I see that. I'm just noticing the trend, and my concern is that that trend is going to start to trickle down into these other areas, right?
Yeah.
So far, so good. I mean, we're down a little bit from last year, but you know, $430 is really
that's
not a major amount. But you know,
that's a
We had
quarter
a
of
whole,
1%.
Wednesday was a complete washout,
it looks
wasn't
like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like Wednesday was a total washout.
I
Nobody
mean,
showed up.
that's been my hesitation the last couple of years to get the kids wristbands is the weather and, but, it sounds like, seems like the loitering is maybe our biggest issue, even more so than like the rides. It sounds like it's not necessarily that we're getting this big draw because of our rides. It's more because they're just loitering, like just hanging out and not spending.
Right.
They're not taking part in the carnival or anything. They're just hanging out and.
Right.
Well, and that's fine. But I don't care if you don't spend money, but I do care if you don't spend money and you cause trouble. I also care if you spend money and you cause trouble.
Right,
It's really
but
the trouble,
I'm just saying
right?
that because maybe it's not necessarily the rides that are, maybe it's not the rides that are bringing the trouble. It's more of just this, nice open space that we have.
Jen has a very valid point though, because there was many times one of the biggest things we had to do with PD was simply get them to move people out of the comfort station or from, being all in one space because, they see a building and immediately they have to all stay in there.
Congregate in
So
it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, even at the end of the night, like Sunday night, me and Carly go out on the Gator and we're picking up trash, and there's areas we have to come back around to later because there's so many kids just hanging out.
Yeah.
And yes, PD's there. They're on like every single corner, but obviously, they're waiting for rides. But when you have groups of kids, things like this happen.
Yeah.
So I know another suggestion was to change the times. I don't know if that's something feasible too. There was, I guess, a lot on Sunday where everybody thought it was closing at 11:30 still, and it wasn't. So that's why there were so many kids hanging around.
Oh, gotcha. Waiting for it.
And we've always had, groups of kids hanging out, even back, in
Yeah.
the 90s when we were smaller. But like to what Brad had said, his point, there was less problems, but there was always, big groups of kids. Sometimes you have to move them maybe in front of a vendor or, blocking an entrance to a ride. So I think at that age group, there's a tendency to say, let's just go hang somewhere, and everyone wants to be at that same
Yeah.
spot.
Right.
But when you're getting the problems and you're getting the issues, then, the frequency of that has increased definitely through the years, especially the last 5 years.
Yep. For sure.
Do you know the average age of the arrests that were made?
No.
Okay.
Can maybe what would be helpful, Irene, is if maybe Chief could put together like just some overall data for us.
Okay.
Like things like I think you're absolutely right. Age, where the people are from, right? I think geographically that would be really helpful. And then maybe the offense, so that and the date that they were arrested on. I'm trying to think.
the day,
Are there
yeah.
any other is there any other data points?
Time, probably.
We're from out of town. What are you gonna do now?
Well, then,
Well, I just that's useful, and I would just like to know.
I've been through this twice now.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Ed. I feel like
I don't think that it's not useful once you find that out, you're still gonna have the same problem.
Sure, we'd have to solve for the problem, but wouldn't it help us focus
On
how
what,
we
like,
solve the problem?
We don't have to worry about getting smaller rides, or, you know what I mean, like, just where to put our focus if we have more information.
I have not seen that data. I know 2 years ago it was bad. I think last year we were all comparing it to 2 years ago, and so we were like, oh, just like a sigh of relief. Great, it wasn't as bad as 2023.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've never seen a breakdown of like what's the trouble.
Okay.
You're probably right. It's probably 100% out of town, and,
I didn't say that,
well,
I don't believe that.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, let's be honest. I remember being in high school and going to these fests, and there were absolutely fights that went on. I remember a gunshot going on. Like, this
Right.
is nothing new. So, you know, sometimes I think we have social media and they blow everything out of
Oh, yeah,
proportion.
definitely.
So, you know, but we do have residents that hear this and then they get more afraid to come. And so we want to make people feel safe and that we are addressing issues, but nothing's going to be perfect. But if I think this year was better than, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 years ago, but minus just that one 6 o'clock on Saturday.
No, I agree, because if you do just like,
Just that one
Yeah.
6 o'clock. You'll need to get this information from Pete.
I will.
However, there were multiple incidents. It wasn't just the one that we happened to see.
No, I know, but
Right.
then I think it was better than,
But here's the thing too, and I guess if you were to just blatantly compare it, last year this happened Friday and Saturday, where this year now it was only Saturday. So are we actually getting to a better place? You could say that. Just like the year before, you know, it was a different issue. It was within the rides. I think it was more the rides that year. It was the line management.
The line
People
management,
were,
yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
fighting more in there than out of the area. So it's always going to be something new every year. But
yes, yeah.
I'm worried that the conversation, we're having the same conversation we've had every year. We
Right.
go next year, and yes, it may have improved, but we're still having the same issues.
Right.
It might be a slightly bit,
Yeah.
but when I sit on the park board, and we have our main event of the year, and I'm not comfortable with my daughter being out of my eyesight,
right,
who's 16,
I get it.
at 6:30 in our park. And I'm walking through that park and I don't know I know very few people in there. And I've spent my entire life there. That tells me we don't have a whole bunch of our own residents and community there. Outside of those that are on the park board, work for the Parks Department, on the town council, or have a booth there.
Right. I mean, sometimes I don't even feel comfortable with staff in certain areas. You know, I have to tell them repeatedly, yeah, like you need to walk away. Because, you know, kids are kids, no matter what their ages are. They are going to want to, oh, it's exciting, you know, someone's fighting or this or that. And I'm like, you guys need to move away. Because, I mean, they're not my kids, but I would feel bad, you know. So, yeah. And, you know, I don't know if Kim wants to speak any of this. She did head the fest with me.
Speak.
Yeah.
If you have something to say and you want to contribute,
Right.
please do.
Please, Kim. I just feel that we had one atmosphere and one experience at the parade, and then we walked from the police station to Reeder Park, and it was a whole nother world.
Oh, yeah.
And what, you know, and what our expectations were 10 years ago of that park experience is now changed. So I guess we have to change, and we have to look at how we want to handle that. Because if it's going to be non-residents showing up, then we have to treat it like you got strangers coming in, and this is what it's going to be. And maybe it has to be an entrance fee. Maybe it has to be an entrance fee for Friday and Saturday nights, because it's Friday and Saturday nights.
Well, I'm with you on that. I think that's why I would love to see, break it down for me so that I'm not making I don't want to assume anything.
Right.
I just want to get the data and look at it and say, okay, here's the
Right.
variable we need to solve for.
And you're absolutely right.
Pick one or two, just pick 2 or 3 things that we're going to do to try to solve for this variable, and let's see how they work.
Okay.
Maybe we can get that information from PD.
Yes.
You can meet with the department heads,
Okay.
compile all of the ideas, and then we can have a work session.
Let's have a study session.
Study
Yeah.
session.
Okay. I can definitely do that.
It's, yeah, I get it. That's okay.
We don't work here.
Kim, please.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So my main question is, what is the holdup that we are not developing on Ileana?
Money?
$80 million.
80 million? Yeah.
That's part of it. I mean, some of it is the process has been, like, I think I speak for everyone on this board, like, unbelievably frustratingly slow.
Okay.
And I'm not going to point any fingers publicly. We can have a private conversation if you really want to know my opinion on it. But
Yeah.
it's been really frustrating with how slow it's gone.
Okay.
And we got, I don't know if you were at the meeting last night, but we got 4 different proposals with varying costs and varying degrees of intensity in the Ileana space. And we now have like a framework to like actually start from. And it's taken us 2.5 years maybe to get to this point, or more than that. I mean, we've owned the land for 10 years, but I think it was only 2 years ago that the council decided. John, throw yourself under the bus.
You weren't paying attention to me, but this should have been done day one, and it was ready to go day one.
Yeah.
And it was canceled day one.
And it was canceled day
So
one.
we sit here
It's
now,
been, we've been
9
really
years
frustrated
later,
with it.
and-
So I'm with you on that.
Got it.
I think we all are.
So I have to say with,
Can you, I'm sorry, can you just speak into the mic? Because it's hard for us to hear you.
so for us at Schererville Parks and Rec, we work very hard to put on this fest.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. There's numerous moves, many things that we do when we're not in the office. We work very hard.
Yeah.
PD kept us very safe, thankful for them. But we still need to do things very differently as far as non-residents attending the fest. I think we do need to charge.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been living in Schererville since I've been in 6th grade. And I have to say, I didn't see a lot of people there that are from this area.
Yeah.
Okay. Irene and Carly have really, really worked hard on this fest, along with myself and our other summer staff, along with everyone. So I think we need to keep the fest, but it definitely needs to have different aspects to it.
Yeah.
My daughter's here, she's 20, she wouldn't come on certain nights. My son didn't come on certain nights either, especially Saturday. Saturday was the bad one.
Yeah.
So, that's all I have.
Okay.
Kim, I don't think there's anyone on this board that doesn't think that we're all doing whatever we can do, and you guys are busting your butts beyond what's been called for. But yeah, we're doing something wrong, and it's not wrong, you, us, them. It's we're all doing something wrong. We're not seeing something, and we're going to have to address it somehow. But until we figure out what that wrong is or what that
I don't think it's necessarily that we are doing something wrong. I think it's because, per se, if they are coming out of state,
if
you know.
Well, do we know, like, and that, I'm not saying you're wrong about that. I just don't know that.
Yeah, correct.
I haven't seen, I wasn't, we had just gotten off a plane Saturday night, so I couldn't be there. We were disappointed we couldn't go, but I'm kind of glad now. But that's why I think we need to look at the data, because if this really is a out-of-state issue, then yeah, like,
Yeah, we know.
immediately, let's put a $50 per person charge if you're not from
Hey,
Indiana.
I'm with that.
I don't care. I'm all for it. Let's just nip it in the butt right away. But I imagine that it's not just out of state. I imagine that there's some Indiana residents, maybe from other communities, that are also part of the problem. And I'd like to kind of narrow that down and figure out what that looks like. It's slightly complicated if we charge, everyone that's not a Schererville resident, because we have people that are Schererville residents but have a Crown Point address or a St. John address or a Dyer. The lines are a little wavy on that, and I don't want to isolate those people and treat them unfairly to solve a problem we could solve a different way. So,
And I think Caleb and I addressed that in our emails today.
yeah, I thought Caleb, the way Caleb worded it,
Yes.
I actually don't think I've read yours yet.
Okay.
But I think, like,
It was the
I like
same
that
thing.
idea. Yeah, I'm on
Preferably
board with
like
that.
our school zone, St. John Township,
Yeah,
no entry fee.
no entry fee, yeah, and then,
Because we are one big community, we are the tri-town.
yeah, yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, when I was, my kids were growing up, we were festival nuts. We would go to St. James, we would go to Highland, we'd go to St. Thomas More, we'd go to Dyer, we'd go to Schererville. I don't think St. John ever had anything. Three things, and I agree, we should consider 2 or 3 things. If it was up to me, I would charge Friday, Saturday. Who we charge, I think yet to be decided. I think we gotta make it smaller. I don't think it's the rides, because I don't think, the kids that are coming here aren't spending money that are causing trouble, so it ain't the rides that are driving them here, it's something else that's driving them here. So it is so tight, there is no room. People may not intend to bump someone, but they do because there is no room. Now, I agree with John, it's probably very difficult to change, but to Irene's point, I would consider getting rid of a few vendors, a few of the craft people. I mean, we have plenty of time for craft people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that.
Definitely.
So I just
Right.
think we need to open up more space so you could see alleys of what's going on more.
Right.
Yeah. But,
I am not opposed to charging, like I said. I just want to make everybody understand, though, what that entails on our end. So
Right.
we are already thin as it is. So now we need volunteers from either other departments, boards, whatever, because the next thing they're going to complain about is the lines to
Yep,
get in.
absolutely.
Okay, so now you need several people at one entrance just to collect or check IDs, whatever it is. We have 2 entrances, so now you have to double that. PD needs to be heavily involved in this because now you have a person sitting there with a lot of money. So now there has to be like drops several times. I'm just saying it just keeps adding more people. I need this person, this.
So I have one thought on that, because
Yeah.
I was thinking about that too. If you are out of town, if you are out of the tri-state area, you pre-register.
I mean,
And you, I'm sure we can do it through the website.
Right.
You pre-register, we send you a band.
right.
Now you're not taking cash. Now you're not checking IDs.
And
You get a red band.
right.
We know you're an out-of-towner. We can identify visually that you are an out-of-towner because you have a red band. You don't have a red band, you are not coming in. You're not coming in.
This was a discussion too last year as far as residents. How can we get them in quicker? So it was more that they would come pick up some type of pass, whether it was at town hall or the community center beforehand.
Yep.
And I know not everyone's gonna do it, but that way they're, like you said, here's my wristband, boom, right in.
I'm in.
There's no line
Yeah,
for that
I
portion.
think it's great.
Yeah, so I mean,
I-
it just needs to be executed correctly.
I actually think the line, like, you allow the line because the line will encourage people to, like, okay, I don't want to do that ever again. Next year, I'm going to pre-register. I'm going
Right.
to put my information in. I'm going to get my, Schererville residents get a blue band or, pick a color.
Yeah.
And now I know. I can see this is a Schererville, this is a Tri-Town resident or a St. John Township resident. This is not a St. John Township resident. The money's collected digitally ahead of time.
Right.
And now no lines and no cash, no drops. And
So-
now we actually have a database of who came.
That is true. So then no one would be allowed in, like we would not be collecting anything at the door,
No.
basically.
It's all done ahead of time,
Right.
right? If you
Right.
don't have a band, you're stopped. You didn't pre-register. I'm sorry, you cannot come in.
you can't come in or Can they pay via credit card?
Not there,
Not at the event?
not at the, well, if they want to step out, we could have the wristbands there, and maybe if you want to step out of line and register on the website,
Right.
and then they'll give you the band after
Yeah.
we verify payment,
Yeah.
fine. But that's going to be a huge pain in the butt for them, and maybe we'll charge more day of than we'll charge, especially for the out of towners, right?
Right.
Maybe it's $10 if you pre-register, but if you show up day of, it's $20. We can set that up,
Right.
and that'll eliminate a lot of your problems.
Yeah.
Right. I guess the only other side of that is now there's a lot more advertising that needs to be done.
Yep.
For that. And we've dialed back on advertising, so now we're
understand.
going back the other way.
They'll
I don't know,
learn.
It's
Yeah.
like I said, it's a running thought process, and it's kind of just getting those pros and cons and what's going to work the best.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Just a thought.
Okay.
Okay. Is anyone else exhausted talking about this? Should we move on?
It's been all week, so.
Should we move on?
Yeah.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you, everybody, for all of your effort at this fest. I still think it was a great success. Kristen, you got anything? What's up with Karen Reed? Anything?
Do you want to get into it? We can.
No. That was entirely a joke. Okay. Any old business? Any new business? Any business from the floor? Not bad. We just need a motion to adjourn. We know when the next meeting is. Remind us when the next meeting is.
July 8th.
July 8th. Okay, next meeting is July 8th. What day is that?
What day is it?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Is that correct,
Okay.
Kristen?
I'm checking.
I'm just going off my memory, so that's not a good
Yes,
thing.
July 8th is
Okay.
a Tuesday.
Tuesday, July 8th?
Are we switching to Tuesdays?
No.
No, so for June and
Oh,
July, we
because of
decided
the-
to
Because
move
of
it
the-
for June because of
Gotcha.
the fest, and then because of the
Fireworks,
4th,
of July,
July 8th?
Okay,
July.
6 PM.
6 o'clock, okay.
After July, it's back to Wednesdays
Wednesdays.
at 6 o'clock.
What day's the fireworks?
Fireworks are Friday, the 28th, right?
7th.
Friday, the 27th?
27th.
Yes.
Sweet. Okay, we just need a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0.